Welcome back to Biblical Greek Tidbits. In this presentation, we will take a brief look at the practice of early scribes of Christian manuscripts to use certain abbreviations known as nomina sacra. The Latin phrase nomina sacra literally means sacred names in English. The singular form of this Latin phrase is nomen sacrum, meaning sacred name in English. We focus our attention on selected portions of a manuscript designated as Papyrus 66, an early to middle 2nd century AD papyrus manuscript. Some paleographers date this manuscript around 200 AD or in the early 3rd century AD. When used as divine titles, nomina sacra words were abbreviated by using the first and last letters of the Greek word or other contractions. In order to draw attention to these nomina sacra, an overbar was placed over the abbreviation, though it seems that scribes were not consistent in doing this. In this presentation, we will limit ourselves to only a few nomina sacra contained in the papyrus manuscript P66. Here are some basic facts about nomina sacra. But first, an explanatory note on papyri designation. The German uppercase letter P corresponds to the uppercase letter P in the English alphabet. You will sometimes see early Greek papyri manuscripts designated by using an English P, such as P66, instead of using the uppercase German letter P in P66. It is very likely that nomina sacra were initially used with the names for Kyrios, Lord, Jesus, Jesus, Christos, Christ, the us, God, and perhaps a little later also pneuma, Spirit. These names can be used for secular designations as well as divine designations. When used for secular designations, they were usually spelled out in full without an overbar. Later, this abbreviating practice for nomina sacra was broadened to include other names beyond what would normally be called sacred names, such as Anthropos and Uranos. There is no consensus among scholars on the development and use of nomina sacra. See the references listed below for a fuller understanding of the use of nomina sacra in the Greek New Testament. Nomina sacra do not show up in any critical edition of the Greek New Testament, such as the Nestle Aland Greek text. In these texts, nomina sacra are spelled out in full, so one must actually inspect the Greek manuscript itself or a transcription of them to see these nomina sacra. We note that Greek numerals were also sometimes written with an overbar. These are not to be confused with nomina sacra. We will provide a list of these numerals from reference 1 in one of the slides below. Here's a list of references used for this presentation. If you want to take a closer look, please pause the video. Here's a complete list of Greek New Testament nomina sacra. Both the nominative and genitive forms are listed. This list of nomina sacra comes from reference 5. The list includes nomina sacra from the Greek Old Testament, Septuagint, as well as from the Greek New Testament. Here's a list of some Greek numerals. These numeral designations were taken from reference 1. The letter for the numeral 6 is the obsolete Greek letter digamma or stigma, which resembles a final sigma. The letter for the numeral 90 is the obsolete Greek letter kappa, and the letter for the numeral 900 is the obsolete Greek letter sampi. Here are a few facts about manuscript P66. P66 contains the following portions of the Gospel of John. You can read these for yourself. P66 is dated as follows: early to middle of the 2nd century AD. There are 78 leaves, 156 pages of P66 with pagination numbers 1 to 156. P66 is the earliest witness to exclude the pericope of the adulteress, John 7:53 through 8:11. All these facts come from reference 1. P66 most likely originally contained all of the Gospel of John. Here's a transcription of John 1:1 from reference 1. Anarchi in alagos, ke alagos in prostantheon, ke theos in alagos. Translation: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The left square bracket indicates that the Greek letters to the right on the first line are not legible in the manuscript. Supplied letters in reference 1 usually, but not always, accord with the text printed in the 27th edition of the Nestle Aland Greek text. The overbars mean that the letters underneath, here theta ni and theta sigma, are abbreviations for theon and theos respectively. That is to say, they are nomina sacra. Note 1. This verse is from leaf 1, verso, page 1 of P66. Verso refers to the side of a leaf that is less smooth and was usually written on second. Recto refers to the smoother side of a leaf and was usually written on first. See reference 3 for more details. Note 2. Theta ni is the accusative abbreviation nomen sacrum for the Greek word theos, and theta sigma is the nominative abbreviation nomen sacrum of the same word. Here's a transcription of John 2:2 from reference 1. Eklithi the ke a Iisus ke I mathite avtu istan gaman. Translation: and Jesus was also invited to the wedding and his disciples. Note 1. This verse is from leaf 4, recto, page 7 of P66. Note 2. Eta sigma is nominative form of the nomen sacrum abbreviation for Jesus. Here's a transcription of John 5:5 from reference 1. In the tis eki anthropos lambda ida, eti ekon endi asthenia of two. Translation: now a certain man was there having an infirmity for 38 years. Note 1. Lambda ida here is not a nomen sacrum. It is a Greek numeral. In Greek numerals, lambda stands for 30 and eta stands for 8. See the previous listing of Greek numerals. Together, lambda eta with an overbar stands for 38. Scribes were not consistent in their use of overbars for Greek numerals. Note 2. John 5:4 is missing from this manuscript, that is to say, P66. It also is not included in most modern critical Greek texts, such as the Nestle Aland text. Note 3. This verse was taken from leaf 13, recto, page 25 of P66. Here's a transcription of John 10:29 from reference 1. patir mu as edhoken mi mizon pandon estin, ke udis dinate arpazin eg tis kiras tu patras. My translation, my Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hand. Note 1. The first line of this verse is from leaf 36, recto of P66. The rest of the verse is from leaf 36, verso of P66. Note 2. The italicized word them does not occur in the Greek, but is added to make the English translation clearer. Patir is the nominative form of the nomen sacrum for the Greek word patir. Patros is the genitive form of the nomen sacrum for the same Greek word. Here's a transcription of John 7:23 from reference 1. E peritamin lambani anthropos and savato ina milithi anamos moiseos emi kolate ati alon anthropon ii epiisa and savato. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath so that the law of Moses is not broken, are you angry with me because I made a whole man well on the Sabbath? Note 1. This verse is from leaf 24, recto, page 47 of piece 66. Anos, a nomen sacrum for the Greek word anthropos. Note that the accusative word anthropon in the next to last line was not abbreviated. I do not know why this is. Nomina sacra may, in some limited instances, be used to help date an early Greek manuscript. For example, the fact that some nomina sacra seem to have been employed at a later date than the initial 4 or 5 discussed previously sometimes helps paleographers date ancient Greek manuscripts. See reference 3, especially pages 199 through 253 for a full discussion of the practice of using nomina sacra. Also, nomina sacra can be useful in identifying the number of scribes that may have contributed to a manuscript. See reference 7 for details describing various scribal habits with regard to nomina sacra. We have only looked at a small number of the nomina sacra in P66. Please see the full transcription of P66 as well as the transcriptions of other early papyri and uncials contained in reference 1 for other nomina sacra. Thank you for watching this presentation. As usual, I defer to real scholars on all matters of biblical Greek.